So I've never actually told the full story of how RPE Strength and Fitness came to be. There were a lot of factors at play, a lot of people that kind of helped or influenced it in some way. So I'm going to kind of tell the full story. I'm going to try to not miss anything, but in order to tell the full story, it's going to take a while. So if you're thinking this is going to be just a quick little, this is how it happened or whatever, that won't be the case. So you can stop it or fast forward, but there's a lot that goes on. So I figured after 10 years of the gym being open, May 15th will be our opening, or our 10-year anniversary. And so after 10 years, I'll actually tell the full story versus like just telling people little bits and pieces of it. But this is not going to be like my story as a trainer or anything like that. This is just simply how the gym came to be. And so in 2012 or 2013, I'd been training people at the wellness center at the hospital for about 7 years. Well, it'd be about 5 years at that point. But I had quite a few clients, and I had started asking if I could potentially come in part-time and train people outside of my normal work hours. It just wasn't going to work because I would have to be like a wellness assistant, and the price of my hourly and everything would have been really awkward. And so I started thinking about what options there might be for me to be able to do this on my own. And so I started kind of asking some people, what do you think? And at the time I had just finished a half Ironman, and I had been doing some kind of CrossFit training and stuff in Lincoln. And so I decided I was going to test this kind of group style training on some clients, because I had almost a full schedule at the time with a few clients kind of waiting. And so I actually asked one client that I already had, one client or one person that I knew from the gym but wasn't my client already, and then a third. And I said, hey, I want to try this style of training on you guys. And it was going to be kind of a mix of traditional strength and conditioning with kind of some of the CrossFit functional things going with it. And so I had asked these three people, and they kind of told some friends and relatives and everything. And all of a sudden I have I think we ended up with 15 or 17 people that wanted to train and try this kind of new style of training. And so we ended up starting a 5 a.m. class at the wellness center, and I was commuting from Lincoln at the time. And so it was very new for me to have to get up that early and some days be on the road by 3:30 just to get there in time. But that very first group, we had, again, about 15 to 17 people. We did it for 8 weeks, 4 days a week, I believe is what we did. And we kind of did like a pre and post test, and everybody in that group improved in their post test by about 50% from the original. Part of that is just they're familiar with it, they knew what it was going to be. But and we literally only had, I think, 2 barbells. We had one 45-pounder, one 15-pounder, a rack of dumbbells and kettlebells. And so everything I had to program had to be done in the back room of wellness. And I was very fortunate that I had the support from my coworkers and my boss to do that. And so, because it was very different. And as we progressed, doing that training, I opened it up. I started doing like a noon class, and I started doing like an afternoon class a couple days a week. And I think some of our wellness members were kind of frustrated that we would take up probably more space than I think they liked at the time. But so we do kettlebell swings, and every once in a while we'd get on the treadmills and off, and it was definitely not ideal for what we were trying to do. And so I started to think about the safety of my clients and the types of stuff that we wanted to do. And that's when I kind of started thinking about actually going out on my own. And it wasn't until I was with my mom, and we had gone up to visit my brother in Wisconsin. We were kind of driving back, and I remember very vividly talking about it with her. And we were on the way back, and I'm gonna keep this PG-13, but my mom doesn't cuss very often, and when she drops an F-bomb, you know she means it. And we were coming back, and she was talking about how she wanted to always be a nurse, and she never did it, and that was one of her big regrets in life, was not pursuing that, but instead, she raised us kids, and she was home and went to everything that we needed to have her go to. And so we're on the way back, and I'm talking about, I don't know if I open this gym, the amount that I'm gonna have to charge to keep it open, people aren't gonna wanna pay it and everything. And at the time, my friend Mike wanted me to come, or he offered for me to come live in LA with him. And he says, if you're half as good as you think you are, you can make $100,000 a year out here. And so, which was pretty enticing. I was single at the time, and going out and living with my friend in LA. I'm pretty sure his house was on the beach, and it would have been a very different kind of fun. But I had a lot of clients that I just felt like I had unfinished business, and I didn't want to leave them behind. And so we're driving along, and I tell her about this gym, and she kind of gets a little emotional, and she says, if you're gonna do it, just effing do it. And if it doesn't work out, then you can go to LA. And at that point, it was like the whole rest of the drive home, I started thinking about where am I gonna set up? What kind of locations and everything can we have? How many people am I going to need? How am I going to do it? How am I going to change the schedule? How am I going to, talk to my clients? So the whole time that my brain was racing, and I don't even remember exactly how it came to be, but I had talked to somebody who our original location was right behind where we are now, right next to Verizon, and Greg Weber, the landlord at the time, was very very cool with me. But somebody, I think, had told me that they had asked about rent there, and whatever they had heard, it was way too expensive. But when I talked to them about it, it seemed very reasonable. And when I first was in there looking, it was filled with like 200 or 300 bales of hay. But I could see, the vision of what I wanted it to be. And even before I was in there, the vision of what I wanted to see was there. Like it all fit before I even knew it fit. And so, I've got probably up to 15 or so existing clients that are eager to get out and try something new. And so we came to an agreement. This would have been like fall or winter of 2014. And I said, how soon can we be in? I want to get in here and start working on it. And so he said, well, if you can get some people to move this straw for me. And I made like 2 phone calls. Next thing you know, we got 2 giant trailers and about 10 or 12 bodies there. And we were just going back and forth, loading up these bales of hay, going to Bradshaw, loading them up, going to Bradshaw. And within a few hours, we had that thing cleaned out. And the next day I was already in there working on it. And so every night I would get done with work at like 6, and I would go and pull insulation out, or I would clean the walls or whatever. And so I think for probably 2 months, I was in there, and I had a lot of help. I could go through and name every single person that helped, but I'm gonna save that for our 10-year anniversary party. But lots of help, lots of volunteers, people that would come and just get crazy dirty, work till 10 or 11 or midnight, and so it was just it was an exciting time, and I couldn't wait to get, open. And then fast forward till May, I think it was May 14th, I was at a friend's brother's wedding on May 14th, and I think that was a Saturday. And the next day, I was going to do a soft opening with some existing clients, and I decided that I was going to go home early. I was going to get up. I was going to be ready to go. And so there was about probably 6, 8 of us did a workout in the new gym. I kind of fast forwarded over like all the specifics of the work that we had to do, but I've got a few photos I'll show of that. But we started with minimal equipment. We bought just enough to run, a 6 to 8 person class. And we opened it up, and I've got a photo that I'm gonna probably link, right now. The first photo ever taken in the gym after a workout. And it was stolen on my phone by my friend Eric, and he took the photo. But a lot of those people that were there, I still, work with now. And then Monday we opened, and that was our first day. And at that old gym, it was very like brick. It was group training was what people wanted. They wanted to be a part of a large group. I mean, we have 20 plus person classes with only 5 or 6 squat racks, and we'd have 3 or 4 people per rack, and we used to write our numbers on the marker board. If I would write it up where it was like 0 to 50, 50 to 100, and you would literally go write your name and how much you were going to plan on lifting that day, or at least close to it. And then I would, pair people up, and it was like having a built-in spotter and friend. And COVID kind of ruined that a little bit, but we're starting to get back to that a little bit more now. But yeah, it was like, that massive, kind of weight off the shoulders when we opened. And then it was, 2 years of working 80-hour weeks, I used to be open 7 days a week. I would even come in on Sundays and do an open gym, thinking that I would just get some cleaning done, but I would end up coaching people because that's what I wanted to do. And it was just a ton of fun. And again, I've got tons of photos of where we were and where we are now. And I know I'm skipping over tons of things. One thing about, even the gym name, prior to even starting this gym, I was in talks with my banker, one of my clients at the time, about possibly doing a huge project. I mean, I considered, taking any money that I could possibly get and building like a multi-million-dollar facility where I could have this entire gym, but also a gym where people could come and do, the normal style of lifting and training. But I didn't want to encroach on, the other businesses in town. Not that it would necessarily do better, but it was, then I wouldn't be able to coach people because I'd have to be running it. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to coach people. And so, but when I came up with the name, I was originally going to call it York County Fitness, thinking like, it's not just the city of York, it's the county, it's the communities around, and, trying to branch out. And then I decided like, okay, I wanted this idea of like everybody that comes in is going to be training at an intensity relative to, their physical capabilities. So whether it's day 1 or day 1,001, whether you're doing an air squat or a 400-pound squat on your shoulders, I wanted that effort to be matched. And so in health and fitness, there's something called the rate of perceived exertion, or RPE. And in hindsight, maybe I could have named it something different that's a little bit easier to understand, but it's not an abbreviation, more of a generalization. So it's not rate of perceived exertion, strength and fitness, it's RPE, strength and fitness, with this idea that anybody that comes in, regardless of who you are, how long you've been training, whether you're rehabbing an injury or if you just like to work out, we want to prescribe something that's going to get you and me and everybody else, a similar relative workout. Because, the reality is we all kind of want the same things. We want to get in better shape, or we want to, be stronger, lose body fat, gain muscle, whatever it is. We want to have some options for that. And so that's why I called it RPE Strength and Fitness, was this idea of a community of people that are there for the same goal, which is to improve their health in some capacity. And that's done through strength and fitness, but more so like the support of people that you work out with. And I can't tell you the number of cases where I've had people that didn't know each other that become great friends, and or just enjoyed spending time with them. And so this has really been an incredible experience. And here 10 years in, there's probably things that I can say, like, I might have done better as a coach when I was younger, and maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive, but like I wasn't sometimes as conservative. But having the opportunity to work with probably close to 500 plus people now in my career, maybe more, I've learned a lot. And so that's why we do things kind of in different like levels and options now. We have options for everybody regardless of what their individual goals are. So things have evolved a bit, but overall, like, the story was, it all started because I had such incredible, support from my clients, and it was constantly, like, yes, you can do this, we can do this, we can create this atmosphere, we can create this fun place to work out. And even through COVID, we had losses like a lot of people did, but I had many clients that were offering to pay their memberships even though we weren't even able to come in, and which I'm incredibly grateful for. And But you know, I've probably in this process of telling the story, I've missed many, 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 many things. You know, I couldn't possibly begin to name the number of people that have helped me out in this process and donated time, money, equipment. I just can't even consider, you know, trying to come up with. In fact, I might even sit down one day and try to literally write out everything that was ever, you know, donated or given to me and write thank yous to those people. But it's just, and part of the reason why I think people like coming to, you know, York and living in York is because, you know, we are a small town, but there's some really good things about it. So, but otherwise, yeah, that's my story. Nothing too wild. Hope you enjoy it. Kind of boring, but come see us if you want to hear the whole thing even more. Thank you.